seems that Blizzard has been going crazy double time in settling all the playable races, and it seems to be set to finish prior to midnight. Gilneas return, Undercity return, Bellamet, there are hints of the Draenei getting a new city, Trolls, there are hints of Goblins getting Undermine in the War Within, and of course, Quel'Thalas in midnight with the Elven reunion. We got warbands that seems to be a setup for making your characters actually feel alive. Now, imagine player housing, but that is not garrisons with orcs and human buildings where there is really an illusion of customization and nothing to actually do. No, race-specific buildings, your alts living there like with the warbands, you choosing a plot of land in Undermine or Quel'Thalas or Durotar, all tied into the story, making the house actually feel alive. In an interview, Blizzard has promised us features at midnight that will blow our socks off, that will be announced right at the 20th anniversary of WoW, and what features would better be suited for this anniversary than giving a home to the characters that have been wandering and fighting on Azeroth for over 20 years. Let's look at all the actual big hints of how Blizzard has been setting up player housing to come in midnight. If you want to get Dragonflight or anything else Warcraft related, Gamigo has some excellent deals that you can check out with my link below. Best of all, you can get software, gift cards, a bunch of games at below market prices. On top of that, you can also use my code DORON to get yet another discount, so make sure to check out my link below and grab some amazing deals at Gamigo. Player housing has been one of those features that people have been requesting pretty much since forever. In multiple interviews, Blizzard mentioned they had considered it, and not just considered it, I mean they already attempted to do it, which was garrisons, but it didn't really live up to being actual, like legit player housing. I mean all those mission tables and order calls we've been getting over the past few years, past few expansions, have kind of been derivatives of player housing, but obviously garrisons was the biggest attempt, and this was really as far as WoW had gotten up to this point. The issue was that it completely isolated you. It really wasn't all that exciting. It got boring really fast. It was not really that well developed, as you only had a few slots. You could customize a few buildings, a few decorations, but practically everyone had the exact same garrison in the exact same space, and it wasn't even really race specific. It was either orc or human with a few building customizations, and of course, most importantly, it was on an alien planet in an alternate time traveling timeline. It wasn't exactly home sweet home. Now, here is the main thing why it really failed. Player housing, in all actuality, is a massive feature by definition if you really want to do it right. It requires a ton of models, a ton of customization, race-specific buildings, systems, lore, tying it in the story. It really is an endeavor close to the scale of World Revamp, which is exactly why I think we may actually be onto something here, as we can really trace what Blizzard has been doing these past few years. I'm not just speculating here without substance. We got about 3 massive hints, and it really seems like Blizzard understood that in order to do player housing properly, you need to devote a ton of effort, which is why they started setting the ground for this all the way in the Shadowlands throughout Dragonflight. They're adding some prerequisite features in the War Within, and ultimately player housing is probably going to come in WoW Midnight. Let's start off with the big and the main news. Have you noticed that Blizzard has been going absolutely hard, and I mean really hard, in setting the ground and giving each playable race their own capitals, which in itself would be a prerequisite to make it something worth playing. The thing is though, we got about a dozen or so playable races, which creates a big problem, and making new capitals, new buildings, all this new lore literally wouldn't make sense if they just announced it all of a sudden. I mean, just imagine if on BlizzCon they announced, yeah, like 10 different races are building their own city overnight. Because of this, they started setting the ground near the end of Shadowlands, and we got so many things going on at once, even now in Dragonflight and also in the War Within. First of all, the Undead got their capital back, with them proclaiming a new Lordron, their new insignia, clearing up loose ends and getting a new identity. Then the Vorgen had just received their kingdom back after spending so many years in exile, and they seem to be slowly rebuilding until midnight. Most important, of course, the entire patch of Dragonflight was about Bellamet, the Night Elves building a new World Tree, a new home, which is yet another hint. However, this is really just the start. Of course, we know the Blood Elves are getting their kingdom restructured, and we're getting a new Silvermoon, and not just Blood Elves, but they're going to be bunching up all the elves here with the Elven reunion team they had announced, which is how they're going to be dealing with the Void Elves as well. Now, all these things that I just mentioned have happened or are confirmed to happen. However, we had recently data mined an absolute ton of new models for 10.2.7 questline, where it seems like the Draenei are building a new capital, something potentially akin to Ockington. It of course may makes sense. I mean, we dealt with their loose ends all the way back in Legion. There is, of course, no going back to Argus nor Draenor, so really their new planet is Azeroth, where they will settle permanently. So it makes zero sense why they're still living in a fortified camp in the ruins of a spaceship, like the crash of a spaceship. Together with them in 10.2.7, and of course we don't really have as much information here, but there are hints of the trolls settling as well, in particular the Darkspear. They already kind of have a settlement on the Echoes, but really this is an area that is so stuck in time and it sorely needs an update, and it could easily be done as well, as the Isles are already there, that you could just update the storyline. Furthermore, we are getting books on the Isles of Kultiras, Zandalar, which is further laying the foundation for Midnight, as well as these books are coming out in only a few months. Now, interesting enough, if you guys can follow the news, you might have seen the new short stories in that Gazlo will apparently be a main character in The War Within, and he's apparently helping to revive a struggling goblin city, and we know Undermine, the goblin capital, is still active, it is underground, it is related to World Soul, Azerite, it is geographically super close to the location of Kastelkan itself, so it is highly likely that the goblins will be getting a capital in a patch like 11.1. Now, you may be thinking, but what about the gnomes and the Pandaren? Unfortunately, in regards to the gnomes, I really have no answer, as we have no hints yet, but I'm guessing there might be a questline in The War Within about it, as the city is really there. I mean, it just needs to be cleared out. But in regards to the Pandaren, I mean, something could be happening. We are very likely going to Pandaria in 10.2.7, and interestingly enough, a book was recently released only a few months back on the current status of Pandaria and all the things that had changed over the years. I'm not, of course, saying we're getting a new capital on Pandaria, but they had surprisingly enough gone through a lot of effort in order to tie loose ends and to give us updates on this continent post Mists of Pandaria, so there has been an effort there as well. Now, when you really take all of this into account, is it not suspicious at all that all of a sudden, in the span of like 2 years, they decided to update and give homes to like 8 different playable races? I don't think it is outrageous to say that this could be a part of the upcoming player housing project that could be cooking in the background. Now, it is of course not all the hints. The reason I'm saying it might happen at midnight is because Blizzard themselves strongly hinted at something big happening in an interview right after BlizzCon. They were asked, is there concern that player excitement and surprise will be tempered with the announcement of the next 3 expansions at once? And they replied to this, there is still so much more to dive in and to announce with each expansion that should help keep players engaged, including a strong cohesive narrative. Features in Midnight are expected to blow the players' socks off. Now, this type of a grandiose statement strongly hints they are in fact planning something big, like some massive project. Like, it's probably not just going to be a new class, but very likely something that players have been requesting since forever, and to me the first thing that comes to mind is either a world revamp or player housing. A world revamp is already happening, but gradually that is essentially confirmed, and there are really not many other features that could blow the players' socks off. Furthermore, it seems like most people are really excited for Midnight and Last Titan. War Within just kinda seems to be setting up the features, just starting to get the ball rolling, which is exactly why I think this project is going to continue throughout the War Within, like this preparation thing. Of course, while we're talking about the War Within, there is one feature that also seems like a prerequisite for advanced player housing, and that is, of course, Warbands. Warbands in itself is not exactly some giant, huge feature. In fact, a lot of people said they should have been done ages ago, but when you think about it, it really seems very closely tied to player housing, like a precursor to it. As I said, player housing, in order to be exciting, to get people excited, to be good, needs to be really well developed. It can't just be garrisons where you got orc and human buildings, a few customizations, and you can put this building here instead of the other one. No. It needs to tie in the story, it needs to be advanced, and most importantly, as with all the races getting their capital, it needs to be like a crowning event where our characters finally, after 20 years of fighting, being essentially murdered hobos, we get our own place in the world that is going to be like the highlight of our achievements. In fact, that is yet another argument why this could happen at Midnight, as it is almost certain Midnight will be announced on BlizzCon this year, right around the time of the 20th anniversary for World of Warcraft. Now, think about what the warbands really are. It groups up all your character in one screen, it gives you an account-wide bank with delves, you will also have these NPCs you interact with. I'm not saying, warbands is player housing, but it is like one of the building blocks for it to happen. Now, with this done, imagine what player housing could actually be like. First of all, you can choose your house based on your race, with each race having unique buildings, but you can kind of mix and match if you want to. You can settle on a plot of land in Gilneas or Quotalas, or you can get an underground plot of land in Undermine. Then in this house, you'll be able to highlight all the things you have done over the years. You can have your tanks must be there, but most importantly, you will have all your characters actually living there. So imagine logging into your house and having your alts just going on about their lives, like actually living there, not just being random NPCs. Then of course, other than this, you're also going to have the NPCs from the delves there as well. Now of course, I am aware this wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone is crazy about player housing or really cares about their character having a house in a game, which is of course why this is not going to be like the main feature of the expansion. Midnight is obvious about the Void, the Light Invasion, all that crazy stuff, but this could be like a big feature that they could use as a selling point to get the old players back. You can imagine a lot of people that gave up on WoW might want to return to check out what player housing is about. Furthermore, to them, it is like a win-win scenario. They would update all these things regardless, but with them updating the city storylines, they're getting content, building new features at the same time. So really, as I said, it is win-win. So ultimately, it really seems like player housing could become a reality in the very near future. Thank you for watching. Check out where the Light really want to build it by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on ancient Greek colonies in Spain by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.